The fifth-generation Nexus smartphone is coming very soon. In fact, according to reports from around the internet, it's already landed in retail inventory around the globe, with sellers waiting only for Google's green light to sell it. That's a pretty big deal, so we're going to take a break this week from running down the news from all across the mobile space to focus exclusively on the Nexus 5. We'll be talking about what we expect, what we hope for, and why we are or are not excited for the new device, plus taking your listener mail on episode 068 of the Pocketnow Weekly, the once-a-week audio podcast from Pocketnow where we discuss smartphones, tablets, and the state of mobile technology in the last few weeks of 2013. I'm your host, Michael Fisher, editorial director at Pocketnow, and today I'm joined by our number one lion tamer, managing editor Anton Dinoj from Radio Romania. Hello, sir.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody.
And by the busiest man in the world, Pocketnow's Android guy, Joe Levi. Good morning, early day in Utah.
It is early, but I don't get a circus reference. Come on, I'm that guy with the Prius,
sure,
right?
Yeah, I don't know, what do you want? You want to be a trapeze artist?
I was thinking clown, but, whatever.
All right, our resident flaming hula hoop spinning champion. No, welcome. Poor Joe. Tony, when I was scheduling the podcast yesterday, Joe was telling me all about his day, and I keep forgetting how much work it is to have a family on Halloween. Happy Halloween, gentlemen.
Oh, thank you.
Well, happy Halloween to you guys.
Thank you. I know, Tony, that doesn't mean crap to you, really. Probably.
Exactly. Exactly my thoughts. I've just posted a rant to my personal Facebook account.
Is that what that was? It was all in Romanian.
Yeah,
I didn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah. It was. You were not among the audience for that post. It was about losing your identity as a nation and feeling the need to import something which means nothing to you and making it your own.
Oh, why do people celebrate Halloween?
Oh yeah, it's like the biggest thing around here. And Valentine's Day, it was like it's our thing.
Really?
That's why I'm so pissed.
Oh man. Well, I understand. See, I do not really get amped on Halloween anymore, but I also don't have children. I do dress up for parties and stuff. I do like dressing up in my, carting out the Starfleet uniform every once a year.
I was about to ask about the Star Trek team.
Yeah, well, actually, no. I'm actually doing Iron Man tomorrow night. I think I'm doing.
Tony Stark. Come on, dude! You're not going as Encounter at Farpoint Deanna Troi.
with the sort of frilly hair and the scant? No, I'm not doing that.
Hey, Michael, do you have the Iron suit?
I don't have the Iron Man suit, but I have the Tony Stark, the heart module. The arc reactor.
It's just going to be a suit and tie or something.
Yeah. And I'm going to shave my beard into the Tony Stark beard as well.
So what about the Audi?
Well, I got to go steal one of those. Thankfully, the Red Sox won last night, so I think there are like 7 or 8 Audis flipped over out on the street. So I'll just
suddenly my cap has become more important.
Oh, that's right. Oh, you should be wearing your cap with a lot of pride now.
Okay, that's what I'll do.
You're going to don it? Good. Well, it's not a video podcast, so nobody will know, but I know. We all take pride in it. But
we all have the picture in our minds.
Exactly. Joe is having the most busy day of us all, though, because when you have kids on Halloween, it's just nuts.
Dude, I was up way past their bedtime, hollowing out gourds and lighting them up, and oh my criminy, having 2 6-year-olds. Up an hour past their bedtime, that's just insanity.
That is nuts. And I do feel for you. I hope the rest of the day goes well for you. Fortunately, the silver lining is we have a new device that's right up your alley. And it's this Nexus 5. Now,
Whoa, a Nexus 5? Beyond the 4?
Beyond, yeah, something new. And not quite a 7. Isn't that amazing?
Wow. Where have I been?
Little tip for those of you who don't know, listeners, we record this podcast early in the morning generally, and early, I mean, it's early for Joe, it's not early for Tony. Everything before noon is early for me. So we record this podcast in the morning, and we use a rundown from the night previous. So our news is dated.
Right? We're talking about yesterday's stuff. Basically.
Exactly. But I do want to augment that with a few bits from the Twitterscape. So I saw a user. I tried to email myself one of these tweets, by the way, and normally that works, and then it actually didn't this time, which is very annoying. But there's a user I follow called NitroZ1, and he follows me, and I follow him, and it's all very lovely. And apparently he has found himself next to a Carphone warehouse over in the UK where they've received stock of Nexus 5 stuff. So we have this wonderful feed. I will see if I can, once I get Joe to talk here in a second, or Tony, I will see if I can find his username again, because I'm really annoyed the tweet didn't work. But the point is, some stores do have stock. Have you guys seen any other reports from around the internet where they're kind of popping up all over the place, where people are taking selfies with Nexus 5s in locations that are obviously back rooms?
Not today.
You haven't seen it? Really?
Not today.
Well, yeah, you've seen the pallets and pallets that have the big empty core, and you wonder why they didn't throw some swag or extra phones in the middle, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's the username I'm talking about is NitroZ, but the handle is N1TROZ is what I'm looking at. And
N1TROZ, it's like nitros.
Yeah, exactly.
That's elite.
So this is cool. I love the story. Like there's a tweet from hours ago where he's like, I think I'm going to go to Carphone Warehouse just see if they have any. And then since then there's been like 30
and I'm going to sneak around their loading dock.
No, apparently he and I'm using air quotes here, inadvertently flirted with a Carphone Warehouse retail associate, and she took a phone out and showed him. So what we're getting is a lot of confirmations of what we expected. Doesn't feel
Is that all it takes anymore?
What?
You just show a little bit of leg at Carphone Warehouse.
That's all you got to do. You just got to be nice to people. Joe Levi, you know this. You're the nicest man on the team, I think. What do you think, Tony? Do you think I'm wrong on that?
I do agree with you that you are not wrong.
Okay.
Okay, out of all the guys on the team, who owns guns?
Oh, yeah, I know. True. Oh, look at that. Look at that.
Who was it that said "speak softly and carry a big stick"?
There you go. We're seeing. So Nitro Z is really excited here. Insta buying the Nexus 5. He says Google killed it, plain and simple. As far as he can tell, they're not stereo speakers, just a single grill on the bottom. The phone doesn't feel all that big either. Just feels like it's a Nexus 4 shell with squared off edges. It's good to hear. A lot of good stuff there. So I feel like that's a nice on-ramp into our rumor roundup, which...
So yeah, let me just comment on that whole
please.
feel thing.
Yeah.
I saw a teaser on Spygen's, I think that's how you pronounce it, their Google Plus page a while back, teasing their quote-unquote ultra fit case. And I went ahead and kept an eye out for it and found it on Amazon a little bit later and bought it. So I actually have a screen protector and a case in my hand for the Nexus 5 that, for all we know, doesn't exist.
Yeah, and by the way, Michael, when Joe mentioned this to me, my first question popping to my mind, what was it? Like, are you getting a Nexus 5?
No, I just get cases for stuff.
Exactly.
It's even one for my iPhone.
Yeah. Oh, no, naturally. Yeah. Oh, it'll fit.
But yeah, so I'm holding the empty shell, and I'm holding the Nexus 4, and they feel the same in hand. Obviously I can see that they're different, but it doesn't feel like there's any added bulk. But man, the Nexus 5 one's really light. There's no phone in it.
You're making me. Yeah, there's no phone in it. Joe, you're making me. You're making me feel like you're making me a little sad. I'm going to be honest with you, because Tony can tell me if he wants me to take this out later, but I don't think he will. We were going to have something cool earlier this week. We had we're supposed to be able to say their name, but I don't want to say their name. So we had an accessory maker approach us with some photos of a Nexus 5. Am I right? But they never materialized.
Yep.
So we were actually really jazzed. It was like, oh, great, we're going to have some photos of the Nexus 5 done up in this really cool skin or case or whatever it was. And
okay, let's bring on the exclusive news. Nexus 5 canceled.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, exactly. Then Google recalled all the inventory and burned it.
They're not inventory, they're empty boxes.
Floating on barges with Google Glass accessories. So it just it broke my heart a little bit that we weren't able to get those shots. But we are all going to see this thing pretty quickly. We have our roundup. I want to talk a little bit about this. The rumor roundup that Stephen Shank put together, assembling all of the facts we know about the Nexus 5, guys, was published on October 14th. Yep. That's a long time ago, and it's because this has been... And I feel like I've been saying this for a lot of devices, and I feel like I've said that. I've given that qualifier before saying that we've heard this about a lot of devices. A lot this year, because leaks have been crazy. But the Nexus 5 takes it to an entirely different level, because this is a phone that's been leaked extensively and has had, 5, 6 like tentative release dates and
rumored release date.
That's exactly right. It's not. I'm not saying that this is a Google thing. I'm saying that this is.
Yep.
Oh,
this
but it is.
Well, but it's Google playing on the very excitable tech media.
So we take all the stuff that we've got through our normal channels, and there's been a little bit more than normal, and if my memory serves, but then you also add into that the combined co-branding with Nestle, which we really haven't seen before and has been really fun. And I've bought more Kit Kats in the last couple of weeks than I have in the last couple of years.
You really?
I have, and I got $5 free of stuff in the Play Store my first time.
Are you going to save like a bunch of Kit Kats like mint in like a non-humid refrigerated room?
In the humidor.
Yeah.
There you go. Put it in the safe. But the other thing that we've had that's been kind of unusual is we've had all of these quote-unquote official Google events.
Yeah.
And we've been so excited. Hey, this is it. It's coming. It's arriving. And then the event is what? We're releasing like album art on Twitter? And that's it?
Yeah.
What? So combine all that, and they're really, I think they're just looking at us and enjoying all the hype that we're generating for them and for this product, because we are their advertising. They don't have to pay for anything. They just sit back with, a cup of hot chocolate and break off a Kit Kat bar and enjoy.
So I've talked to Taylor. Actually, I talked to everybody on the team about this, but Taylor said an interesting thing, that somewhere on the lines that Google is probably the biggest troll these days.
Yeah.
And I would rephrase. I would say that this is pathetic. I mean, if you are Huawei, or why not even Nokia, a third or probably the last from the top ones, and you need the attention and you're desperate for it, yes, you can do it. But you're in a leading position and you are doing this. It's kind of pathetic. I mean, get back to your corner and just release the phone already.
I thought it was brilliant and fun and fattening.
Yes, I was going to say this isn't going to be any good for our waistlines.
No,
I just had during that intermission, I just had an iMessage message come in from somebody who I don't know, which is why I hate iMessage. And Taylor Martin is also bugging me about something else. So Taylor, stop it. We're podcasting. It's very important. I think his ears were burning, Tony.
Yeah, and he's going to hear this in like 3 hours when it publishes.
He never listens when he's not on the air. Just like you. No, so
what? Yeah. We live tweet the crap out of everything.
I was talking to Tony.
Oh.
Here's my question though. Like, yes, we're getting very amped on this Nexus 5 as the media as a whole, users, Android fans. But guys, why? I've been hitting myself upside the head with this question. Why is this so exciting? Is it because, and I would like Tony to answer this first, because I want to hear from the non-Android guy first. Like, because for me, it's taken me a while to arrive at this answer. Like, why am I not excited about the Nexus 5? And in general, I mean, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later as it relates to another device. But for me, it's because I already have the Moto X, and I'm getting an experience on the Moto X that I really, really like, and it's, as far as I can tell, superior for my needs. So that's my stock Android thing. Tony, are you excited about the Nexus 5 personally? Why or why not?
No, I am not, but I have not been excited about any Nexus device ever, because I am not a pure Android aficionado. And with all due respect to every Nexus fan out there, everybody's got their own choices. I would very much prefer even TouchWiz or Sense 5 opposed to the pure Android experience. And to answer your question, I think that there's a lot of buzz, not necessarily because it is a Nexus, because we know that Nexus devices are just a small part of the entire Android user base. I think it's more because we are hoping and we are likely to see a high-end Android phone at a very affordable price. And I think that that's the main reason why we have the buzz.
I think you're right. I think price is a major factor, and the Moto X has certainly, like the iPhone 5C, has not been the affordable device it was at one point rumored to be, and I don't think it's ever needed to be. But Joe, your answer to this is obviously yes. But tell us why you are really amped on the Nexus 5. Why are you buying cases for this phone that you don't have yet? You're so jazzed.
Because I don't have a Moto X.
But you do have a Nexus 4. Right?
I do, and that's something that I try and do. when I buy my daily drivers, I try and buy my daily drivers. It's not something that is a corporate thing most of the time. I'll have to go several weeks through the year. Have to. It's so hard what we do. Using the latest and greatest phone from whatever, and do a review on it. It's so tough. But my daily driver is one that I personally invest in, and I do that basically so that I still maintain my editorial integrity. I put my own personal money behind my choices, and the Nexus 4 is doing everything I need it to. Would I like a Moto X? Sure, you bet. Is it worth buying it when the Nexus 5 is coming out in possibly hours, or maybe already by the time the podcast hits the air? I didn't think so, so I've just kind of held off. I really think it's really cool what they're doing with it, and I envy everyone out there who has it. And I'm not going to look down my nose at you if you've got a Moto X, unless your name's Michael Fisher. Oh. But that's for other reasons, not because of the Moto X.
Naturally, yeah. No, those are Star Trek differences. But so you're making a good point, Joe. I mean, like, not everybody's got the Moto X. Not everybody wants the Moto X, and the Nexus line has come to represent not what it once stood for, which was showcasing the very best of Android, what you can do with it. But now it's become this sort of half consumerized thing that is now very, very affordable, as Tony rightly points out. I mean, if this thing sells, that's one thing that we're seeing a bunch of leaks on, but nothing confirmed yet. At the same $349 price point would be stunningly weird. But let's talk about the hardware that we're actually getting excited for. This display is the same panel as on the G2, right? Is that what we're thinking? Okay. So, and as much as I really didn't like the G2 as a whole, most of that was software. I know. I really like the display, though. The display is absolutely gorgeous on that phone, and so that's exciting. You can't necessarily, I'm generally an AMOLED guy. And you really can't complain about the one on the G2 in that respect. What, Joe?
I was just, AMOLED has really, really cool advantages. But, different technologies have different features. And I'm kind of wishing that it had some Moto X-y screen goodness on it. But, hey, like you said, the G2 screen is nothing short of gorgeous. So I don't think I'm going to be disappointed.
Yeah, so there's no need to be sad about that.
No.
Really?
Since we're talking about specs, and I would just want to make a bridge between what we talked about earlier, price and specs. Now, what will the Nexus 5, in its currently rumored spec form, do that the LG G2 or the Xperia Z1 does not? Nothing. It has the same specs. Thing is, it's half the price.
Exactly.
And that's
right.
And that makes the point.
Those specs that we're talking about a Snapdragon 800, right? At we don't know the clock speed, but they usually run around 2.3 gigahertz, right?
That's as fast as they can run it, yeah.
Okay. Wait, is that as fast as, is that their top, like that's not their upper limit. I mean, people can overclock them, can't they?
If that dude who just wrote an article at Pocketnow about the Snapdragon 800 knew what he was talking about, then that's the ceiling.
Okay.
There are rumors that there's going to be a refresh of the 800, whether that's going to be the 900, the 1000, the 801, we don't know.
We're just now seeing the 800 land on hardware, like consumer hardware, though.
I know, but that's why it's a refresh, and it could potentially push that clock speed out to 2.5. So not hugely, but...
Here's a question, and not necessarily for Michael, because I know he would never do something like this, but for you, Joe. Well, I understood that we were overclocking our single-core processors, our dual-core processors, but why on earth would somebody overclock a Snapdragon 800 at 2.2 gigahertz?
They're not. I mean, why would they overclock it faster than that?
Yeah,
we all want more speed
because they can. The speed difference is just not perceivable among that speed, above that speed.
Yeah, you hit a certain ceiling and you're not going to notice anything in day-to-day activities. In fact, what I do with my phones, typically I'm underclocking them. I'm running them slower than they're designed.
That I can understand.
To save on battery life, right?
Yeah. It extends the battery life out, and I don't notice a difference. So this, from what the rumor mill is churning, is not going to be an OEM who is overclocking what the 800 is designed to do. The rumors are that it's going to be a refresh actually from Qualcomm that is designed for some other product, whether that's a higher-end tablet or whatnot, that just ups the speed and maybe gives it a few other bells and whistles along the way. So not a huge improvement as far as what everybody's thinking, but it's just a step up in speed a little bit. And I can see the difference, between a smartphone and a tablet, perhaps, or a smartphone and a notebook processor, for example. Whether or not it's true, I don't know. But come on, guys, 2.3 gigahertz quad core. That's more power than we know what to do with.
Absolutely.
Already.
And I mean, that's the kind of power where you instinctively say, why do I need to even worry about this anymore? This is more power than you will ever need in the palm of your hand with today's software. But generally,
not only that, you also future-proof it.
Well, that's true, but generally, when we're talking about Android devices that sell in the millions and millions, we're talking about heavily skinned TouchWiz devices, and in that case, this is simplistic thinking, and I'm sure it's more than halfway wrong. But I got to say, whenever I'm running a device that's running a skin as heavy as TouchWiz, I do want the best specs I can possibly get, because I know it's going to just slog down.
Yeah, Joe's going to have a piece on that, and I don't want to spoil the entire thing. But one observation which I had is that often the problem is not with Android, and it's not even with specs. The problem is because of crappy software optimization.
Yeah, it's the third-party UI that's not being optimized properly.
I was going to say,
off topic.
It was just like you guys are quoting from my article. It's beautiful.
Good. Well, that is one I will look out for then, because I'm always excited for Joe's articles, but those are going to be cool.
Well, it's usually because I put your picture in them.
That's exactly right. It's only the shout outs that I
I dig my own quotes within Joe's articles.
So with the rest of the Nexus 5 kind of physical existence, we're looking at my favorite. Does anybody want to guess at my favorite feature on this thing?
The optimals, the opticals, the OIS camera.
I love that didn't even take a second. Thank you, Tony. And it's got to be your favorite feature too. I mean, I know you and I are of one mind on this, right?
Yep.
Optical image stabilization, as it was implemented on the Lumia 1020, was great in my experience, and I loved it. But it wasn't until I got my hands on the G2, which I otherwise wouldn't carry personally, that I realized just how smooth OIS can make a camera experience. Mm-hmm. Oh, man. I mean, you're just walking around, even with the viewfinder active, you're not shooting anything, you're just getting ready to take a shot, and just you kind of prefer to view the world through the phone because it's smoother, it's nicer.
It's more stable than you are.
Yeah, way more stable than I am, because I shake all the time. I drink coffee all day. So it's just amazing. And if they port that technology to the same technology to the Nexus 5, or if they have already, if it's sitting in boxes waiting to go with that same technology, I kind of don't care what the sensor size is, because we're talking about an 8-megapixel unit instead of a 13-megapixel sensor. And I have a piece coming out today, I think, that talks about why megapixels are not as important these days. But of course, everybody has said that. But the new buzzword that actually delivers on its promise is OIS. Optical image stabilization is one of the best things to come to smartphone cameras in history, I think. And so to have it on this device, even if it is an 8-megapixel sensor versus a 13-megapixel one, it's great. And there are also disadvantages to going up to 13 as well, because I think you have some light collection problems the more dense you go. Isn't that right?
It could be. I couldn't say for sure. But now that you're talking about the camera, I'm looking at the leaked photos, and I realized what my problem is with this Nexus 5. What? That big-ass camera protector lens.
You don't
the camera is obviously much smaller, like half of that. Why the need for such a protective lens on top of it?
Oh, you know the answer to that.
It's like, dude, look at my camera.
Oh, exactly, yeah.
Let me bust out my 1020. Look at this.
Right. So you got Nokia out there with the Lumia 1020 and that big Oreo on the back. You got to compete with that somehow in a visual marketing standpoint.
Like when you see the glass and right in the middle of it, that small camera sensor, which is actually the lens. Yeah. It's kind of, you want to laugh. At least I do.
Do you guys remember the original fan renders that we got based on the leaked video stills and whatnot, where we kind of knew the layout already? We knew where the LED was. We knew where the camera lens was. And whoever put that render together made like this big honkin' fisheye lens going over the top of that whole area.
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
I was excited for that. But now looking at it, it's just like, they need to like make arrows pointing to the little camera sensor in there, or maybe, I don't know, paint a target on it. hey, look at me. I'm the camera, and I'm right here.
You know
in
what
case
I
you
want?
didn't know.
I want hazard striping around my
Hazard
camera
stripe.
lens. Yeah, black and yellow stripes. This is great. Yeah, so I'm still looking. You've put me in mind of different hardware elements on this phone, and the OIS I'm very excited about, of course. But also, I'm really a fanboy on notification lights. And guys, refresh my memory. The Nexus 4 does have one down low. Is that right?
I have a what?
I don't have one, but Joe's got one.
A notification light?
The Nexus 4? Oh, yeah. Heck yeah. Down on the bottom.
It's down on the bottom.
Nice.
So it's in the same spot as the the new Nexus 7's blinky light, right? Down in the home button position.
Relatively, yes.
Yeah.
If there were a home button there, so yeah.
Well, apparently they've carried that forward to this one here, and getting to the most granular of details. Nitro Z reports that that is a very bright light on this unit.
Wait a second. Wasn't the rumor that there will be no notification light, and instead Android 4.4 will bring those Moto X-like screen-on notification thingies?
I'm sure
that's a rumor, yeah.
I'm sure active notifications will be present in some form. Actually, I'm not sure about that. I assume that. But I also still like the idea of a notification light.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. It should be a must on every phone. I was just, it's just conflicting rumors.
Yeah.
Reports.
And they are conflicting a bit because the active notifications, I mean, they obviate the need for a notification.
Especially on an AMOLED screen.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta disagree with that. An AMOLED screen and active notifications are a great combination. Active notifications on anything but an AMOLED screen, you're going to run into some battery impact and implications.
Well,
to a degree.
Yeah, but remember they're active,
lighting.
right? But they're active notifications. Like the point is that they're smart. So if the phone is, ideally, if the software is leveraging the hardware properly, the phone knows when it's in a pocket, doesn't turn on the screen. It only activates the screen.
Yeah, but strictly on paper, on LCDs, they illuminate the entire screen. On AMOLEDs, they only light up.
I know. I get that, right? But it's only lighting up when it should, if it's implemented properly. So it's. But at the same time, hold on, guys. What does the Snapdragon 800 has a discrete sub-processor to do some of that contextual stuff, doesn't it? Like it has some of those capabilities, right?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not in the same sense that we have seen in the Moto X and in Apple's latest product.
Yeah, the M7.
But I can't imagine that you're not going to have something in there that's functionally equivalent, even if it's not exactly the same thing. So we're going to see a lot of that, especially in the high-end chips like the 800. But no, it's not going to have the same advantage that the Motos have.
So it will basically wake up the entire processor to notify you and then put it to sleep back again.
Well, remember, it's got various states inside the processor, so it's going to wake up in a very, very low speed, if you will, in almost an ambient state. But yes, it's the processor. It's not a dedicated ambient processor like we have in and that's my term, guys. I'm the one who coined it, as far as I know. So I'm going to use the crap out of it.
I'm seeing the guys at SlashGear were reporting on this back in April or May, and they're saying in a piece that Qualcomm actually did build the same ability. The same effective ability into the Snapdragon 800 as in the custom core on the Moto X and the Droid.
I'm not questioning their report, but I think that if it would be true, then we would have heard about this as a marketing catch for a long time, and all the Snapdragon 800 processor powered phones, I'm mentioning here the Z1 and the G2, would at one point have offered this.
Well, you know what? It's true, but there are other features within the Snapdragon 800 that are not taken advantage of by every piece of hardware, like that the quick charging that the Lumia 2520 has. That
should be on.
Yeah, well, that's a first, but like you have to build hardware that leverages it because it requires other stuff. So I think that I see the 800 as this kind of like never-ending bag of secret tricks, where it's like, oh, yeah, well, we forgot about that feature when Qualcomm announced it back when they rolled out the 800, but this new piece of hardware takes advantage of. So, and I think the Nexus 5 is just the right device for Google to come out and say, like, oh, hey, yeah, so this is the Nexus 5, and it does this really cool thing that you've only seen here before,
Well, yeah, and one other thing to keep in mind is we have we're trying to make a clean separation, a distinction between hardware and software, saying we can't do one without the other, which to a certain extent is true. But once we start look at this really, really cool processor, let's now look at software that may not exist today that can do stuff with that hardware, inside that processor that we didn't think about before. The manufacturer of the processor didn't even imagine that use or that functionality, but hey, it can do it because it has the capability of being in ultra low mode. It knows whether it's in a pocket or not. Even though it doesn't have that dedicated chip, the software can be smart enough to have it emulate that or something along those lines. So software taking advantage of these really high-end processors really is an untapped thing going off into the future, and it always has been, and that's yet another reason, and I didn't mention this by name, but why you want to get the latest and greatest that you can whenever you're going to get something, whether it's a desktop or whether it's a smartphone or a tablet.
It's a good call. And power management we were talking about is a big concern for devices like this, and I kind of want to use this to wrap up the hardware before we go into KitKat. The battery was rumored. We had a lot of rumors surrounding the battery on this sucker, variable capacities depending on what model you bought, but it looks like all that has settled down, right? We're looking at Tony, a 2300 milliamp hour cell?
Yeah, and the 3000 something, which was also rumored with the 32 gig model.
Right. Yeah. It looks like that's completely in the dumpster now, right?
Oh, and by the way, it should be, instead of 8 and 16 and 32 gigabyte options. Well, but still without a SD slot.
Well, that makes more sense. Yeah. It makes so much more sense.
It makes more, rather than 8 and 16, yes. Yeah. But why on earth can't you put a micro SD card on it?
I just think philosophically that's not where they want to be. And it's funny because we do have variances in this. Like I never thought I would see the day when HTC would reincorporate micro SD cards, and they've done so with the One Max. And the Nokia, I keep calling Nokia Lumia. Nokia has done so with the Lumia 1520 as well. You've got a micro SD card in there. I never would have thought I would see that. So it's interesting that some manufacturers are kind of backtracking presumably in response to consumer demand, and others are like, no, that is not our philosophy. If you want more storage, here, take 50 free gigs of Google Drive and run with it. And it looks like obviously we know which boat Google's in here.
Yeah. So the boat that I'm in there, yes, I want an SD slot. Everybody knows that. I know why Google's doing what they're doing. If I were working for them, I'd probably agree. I'm not, so I don't necessarily. But please, for the love that is all that's good and decent, just give me USB on the go so I can plug in something to the bottom. You don't have to mess up your phone or dirty up your phone, but let me throw a freaking thumb drive on it so I can take my movies with me.
Wait, hold on a second. USB on the go.
Yes.
Refresh the minds of the listeners, because I'm not sure that all of them remember what that is, and that's code for I don't know what you're talking about, Joe.
All right. So USB OTG, to put it in acronyms that sound like Star Trek for you.
Yay.
It essentially lets you plug in a little dongle into your USB port on the bottom of your device, your tablet, your phone, whatever. And it exposes a real dedicated USB port that you can plug in compatible devices. So you could plug in a mouse, you could plug in a keyboard, you could plug in a thumb drive, you could plug in a hard drive.
But that support it's required that the support is in the hardware on the smartphone or in the software or both?
In the software. Yeah. Mostly it's software. And that's the part, and not to disagree with Tony entirely on this, but we've seen on-the-go support in other Android devices, and then we've seen that quote-unquote patched out of it with updates.
Wow.
So we had it, and then right when people were saying, hey, cool, look, you can do this, and then we get an update, and no,
you can't.
You can't. Sorry, goodbye. You're done. And that pisses me off. Don't give us stuff and then patch it out.
No, I know.
You should be giving us more features with updates, not less.
It's got to be a security worry. I mean, it's got to be something, because Android does not need a bloody nose right now as far as security goes. They want those enterprise customers. We have Samsung building an entirely different suite of stuff under Knox to pursue those enterprise customers.
Knocks on wood.
Wow. He's finally gotten American puns.
I agree. No, Tony's way ahead of the game on those. He comes up with new ones sometimes, and I'm like, oh, wait, let me write it down.
I'm going to bring that over to the States, and I'm going to be.
And then
famous.
it never works. And I try and get it, and it just doesn't happen. I like
You're saying it wrong.
I know. Apparently, I can't roll my R's like Jaime. I can't pronounce like you, Tony. Before we move into KitKat, we have two more things. Tony has something to say. I did jump the gun on that a little bit. We have to talk a little bit about a CDMA Nexus 5, and we have to talk about one other thing, the packaging. Guys, the last time we had a CDMA Nexus product, do you remember what it was?
Yeah, the Galaxy Nexus.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I had that thing, and when I broke that thing on the boat, I remember announcing it on the podcast. It was like episode 10 of the podcast or something. It was like, guys, I broke my Galaxy Nexus on the boat because I shattered the screen when I sat on it or something. And I was sad because I really, really liked the Galaxy Nexus. But on the same token, I was excited that I would never have to write another editorial about how the Verizon Galaxy Nexus was not a real Nexus device.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Oh, man. Because
down to the accessories, it wasn't a real Nexus.
Mm-hmm.
Just, ugh.
So the problem there, depending on who you listened to, could have come from a variety of sources, but I think the most commonly accepted one, and I remember reading somewhere that this was wrong, so I don't know, but that the CDMA binaries are locked down by this kind of proprietary system because CDMA is a Qualcomm property, and there's all these keys that are required for that network to operate, for devices to operate on the network, and they introduced another layer of difficulty into the software upgrade process, which is why you had people with the Galaxy Nexus on Verizon Wireless, ostensibly, it's a Nexus device, they should be getting updates right away, waiting months for the latest version of Android.
Yeah, they're still on Honeycomb, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it felt like carrying the Galaxy Nexus LTE. So when the Nexus 4 came out, we didn't see support for CDMA networks, and I think everyone kind of assigned the reasoning for that to the whole disaster that unfolded with the Galaxy Nexus.
We also didn't see support for LTE. So.
Right, which was very frustrating, and that's why I didn't buy the Nexus 4, among other reasons. But
I have it.
You have it. But Sprint is rumored now, and these rumors are, I think, very credible, right? This is from EvLeaks, reporting that the Sprint Nexus 5 does exist, which means that a Nexus 5, not only with LTE, obviously, but with CDMA support exists. So my question to you guys is, do you think we'll see the same disaster happen this time with Nexuses that are waiting on months for updates, flying in the face of the whole Nexus program? Tony, what do you think?
No, I don't think so. I think that they have learned, especially that they have skipped one Nexus device and they had a little bit of time to read all the complaints from customers and possible future customers, which decided not to be customers because of the skipped the Nexus 4 and with the complaints from the Galaxy Nexus. No, so bottom line, I think they have learned, and I think the Nexus 5, the CDMA version, will indeed be, to use your words, a true Nexus.
Joe, do you agree?
No. Of course. It's excuse me. It's early in the morning here. It's nice when an editor can disagree with his editorial director so blatant and on the face.
Oh, you can disagree with me if you want, but you're disagreeing with your managing editor currently.
I don't know what your titles are, guys.
Back to sleep, Joe Levi.
My main boss guy, Tony. So I agree with where Tony's going. I think Google has learned the lesson. I think that they're going to do everything they can to make sure that this is as smooth and unfrustrating as possible to make sure it's a true Nexus experience. However, Sprint and Verizon, and really that's pretty much the only carriers that we're talking about that are still CDMA, are notorious for having the most locked down network, and especially when we talk Verizon, one of the most locked down approval processes for letting anything at all ever touch their networks, their CDMA networks. Verizon finds themselves in an interesting situation with their whole LTE 700 megahertz spectrum that they signed a contract with the federal government that apparently they didn't read that said they had to keep it open. But that's kind of made them a little bit more open than they would have otherwise liked to be, in my opinion. So there's that part. Now, over to my article that I'm pimping the crap out of today.
Yeah, this is the most teased article in history.
I know, isn't it great? I didn't mention this in the article because it really wasn't applicable to that article, but it's applicable here. The Snapdragon 800 comes in 4 different individual chipsets. The one that we are going to see, the one that we are going to see in the traditional Nexus 5 here is the 8974, which has the LTE radios built into it.
Okay.
The 8674 has their CDMA radio in it. So that's what we're going to be seeing, I would assume, in the Sprint version, and presumably, if there ever is one, in the Verizon version as well. I'm wondering if they'll just not do Verizon because Verizon is LTE, and they'll just go with a mini tablet, get the LTE version. But who knows?
Man, you know what? That's a lot of acronyms. It's a lot of letters and numbers. Yeah. I want to talk about candy. Before we go there, though,
No, you don't.
Yeah, well, it's just don't worry. I ain't gonna.
He said before we go
gonna
there.
Taylor Martin on you. It's all right. I'm not gonna blow past you. Ed, Tony, what are your thoughts on what we haven't covered yet?
So I want to slightly calculate, even though I hate numbers, and I'm sure you guys also do hate numbers, but just bear with me for a second. Yeah. Now, as if my memory serves me well, the latest numbers reported for sales as far as the Nexus 4 was concerned were dated back in May, when we heard something along the lines of 3 million. So if we extrapolate to today, let's say Google and LG sold together a total amount of 5/6 million devices. Now, if there is a certain growth like there has been in the past for the Nexus brand, it is safe to assume that within the year of the Nexus 5, LG and Google will sell probably around the lines of 10 million devices, just for the sake of example.
Okay.
Now, refresh my memory, guys. How much does the G2 retail for?
Oh gosh, the retail price on that thing has got to be $599 at least in the States.
Okay, let's say just 5. Just 5, and we are being gentlemen. So Google is covering about $150 out of those costs, because basically the Nexus 5 is the G2 minus the probably slightly smaller sensor on the camera. Now, if you extrapolate that to 10 million devices, that's a lot of money. So my question to you guys is Google winning or losing on the Nexus lineup, specifically on the Nexus 5?
You mean like financially?
Yeah.
I think that the Nexus story for them is the exact same thing as the Motorola story for them. It's a thing that they're perfectly willing to lose money on in terms of the hardware.
Sure, and they have where to lose from, just like Microsoft can lose money with Nokia and so on. But if you just take the Nexus brand out of the entire Google context, do you think it's a profitable thing, or do you think that it is an accepted loss just because they want to push the Nexus brand forward?
That's it. That's what I think. I really don't think. I think they're accepting that, and in fact accepting it with glee, because they're getting a lot of look at what we're talking about. This is an entire podcast dedicated to talking about the new Nexus. People are so worked up over this thing because the tech media is so worked up over this thing. And the Nexus brand continues to be pushed further and further from its roots as a developer-centric thing to more of a consumerized thing. And all that does is boost Android's cachet in its war with the other platforms. And it also advances the cause of the platform developmentally, because you have a whole lot more people out there. Yeah, so I think they're totally willing to lose money on this.
Well, because I hate numbers and I'm not particularly good with them, I fired up my calculator. And in my example, losing $150 on every unit for 10 million units is $1.5 billion. And that's a lot of money to lose.
Yeah, but what do they make? They're making it back on all the eyeballs on ads, all the services, right?
Yeah, and the ads and everything. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think in a net sense, they're definitely profiting rather extremely from these units by the end of their operational lifetimes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my thoughts on it. Google doesn't want to lose money. They're a business. The whole. If you guys didn't know this, business is around to make money. That's what they do. They're not a charity.
Oh.
So yeah,
okay.
Deep wisdom from Joe the Android guy here. How about that? So are they losing money on the hardware of the Nexus 4, the Nexus 5? In the short term, possibly so. But when you look at it, like Michael was going, you've got a whole bunch more to factor into that, and that's the revenue stream that they get from advertising partners and whatnot the entire time that you own an Android. So once you factor that in, even if you're just factoring that in the life cycle of that individual device, I've got to assume that they're at least breaking even. And by that, I don't mean just a zero net sum. They're making all the money that they need to be profitable enough to show shareholders this is okay. We're not throwing money down a black hole here. They are showing an operating profit that may be nominal, but it's enough to continue it.
Let's take this further for 10 seconds. And what about LG? Are they losing money with this, or are they getting exactly what they're requiring from Google?
I think LG is getting exactly what they need. They're selling their product to them at cost. And that cost includes all the overhead and everything that they need to keep the lights on and pay the employees. Mm-hmm. So they're making what they need to be able to sell it to them. They're again in it to make money. So even though they're from Korea, Koreans like making money too, guys. Okay, it seems to be a universal thing.
But we shouldn't underestimate the fact that LG also needs this kind of mind share push too, especially in the States. I'm not saying LG is like Sony or Nokia in the States and in terms of like consumer awareness, but they're not anywhere near where their competitors are at. So they need the kind of grafted on legitimacy of being the Nexus provider.
Well, and more than that, let me finish my other thought and I'll come back to this one because they dovetail together.
Yeah.
What we have here is, and this is what I think Google's true intent behind the Nexus program is, and I could be wrong, and if you disagree with me, you're welcome to. But then, you're wrong too. The Nexus program is all about getting really, really good hardware available and out there at an affordable price, not just for us, the geeks, not just for us, the end users, but to show everyone else, to show Motorola, which I know is Google, to show HTC, to show Sony, to show Samsung, you can make really, really high-end stuff for a lower price and still be profitable, still make money, and not have to charge the same Apple-like prices just because it's a Samsung or just because it's an HTC. The good hardware can be had at lower prices, and by doing that, we're seeing it with the Nexus 7, they're forcing the prices down. So that's good for everyone all around. Now, back to the point you were making with legitimacy, LG is a small name in the smartphone industry, sure. They've been making consumer electronics for ever.
Yeah, well, in the States, they're small in smartphone. They're not small globally. They're what, the third largest shipper of stuff. Yeah,
right. So once we start looking at that, I think it has less to do with legitimacy because LG as a name and as a company, I think, has plenty of legitimacy. Getting their name out there as a smartphone maker, that's what they're working on right now. But that's also an entirely different production line, production, fabrication, blah, blah, blah. It's different than making, say, a DVD-ROM drive, which they make as well, by the way. So when you start looking at that, you've got economies of scale to factor in. The more products they make that are based off of their G2, which this is pretty similar, just like the Nexus 4 was to the previous one, whatever it was,
Optimus G.
the Optimus G. You've got economies of scale. The more stuff they can pump down that production line, the less expensive it is per unit for them to run stuff down that production line. And that helps not only them make more profit, but it also helps keep the costs down.
So to both of you, especially to Michael, who talked about the mind share that LG needs, here's a quote. The Nexus 4 was a great success, despite the production problems for us and Google. However, we do not need such a marketing success again. Do you know who said this?
No, who said that?
Said LG's Vice President Kim Wan.
Really?
And that was back in May when there were rumors about LG making the Nexus 5. Of course, LG then came on record and they said that it was misinterpreted. And the new statement was that what Mr. Wan Kim said is that we are not currently working on the Nexus 5, which is true, but that doesn't mean we would turn down the opportunity. So what this translates to me in is that really LG does not need Google anymore.
Well, that's of course, and I would absolutely say that too if I were them.
They don't need it, but they're not going to turn it down, and it's going to help both of them.
I really think it's a mutually beneficial arrangement, which is why they've done it now for 2 generations in a row. to the chagrin of old fogies like me who like other designs. But yeah, this is stuff that we're going to be able to dissect going forward.
Yeah.
Joe, I think you have a very good grasp on the business realities of the situation. Tony, I completely agree that statements from the company are important. I never believe them, not just from LG, from anyone. It's all corporate face saving and so on.
All right, so breaking news, since I know this is the podcast and breaking news is completely relevant.
Oh, absolutely it is. Yeah.
Following Nitro's at N1TROZ, who, by the way, thinks it's awesome that we're mentioning him on the podcast. So, I'm hoping he's blushing right now. He has said that he's seeing rumors from various sources that we're going to see a release at 8 a.m., which is now 45 minutes from the time we're recording this, of the Nexus 5. So, about an hour after we've published this, it will have been or an hour before.
So by the time people get at this time in the podcast, like 50 minutes in, it's already out. So it's already
an hour old. But
what's going to happen? No, what's going to happen is by the time people get to this point in the podcast, there are going to be 450,000 stories across the internet saying Nexus 5 misses another deadline. Like that. I think that various sources that you were citing, Joe, I don't know if they exist. I don't think Nitro Z was talking about any particular sources there.
He mentioned.
Did he go back to the Carphone warehouse to do some more flirting?
let me tell you some words of wisdom from myself. What I personally and truly believe is that last year's Nexus announcement was a silent press release announcement because of the hurricane. Yes. And I don't think that Google wants to repeat that, given the fact that the Nexus the 5 is so important that they have apparently leaked it all over the internet themselves for the past 4 months. So what I think is that this week we will not see an announcement. It will be probably next week, and it will be an announcement with invites. And since we don't have invites yet, we will not see anything this week. But they might prove me wrong. But this is what I believe in.
We'll see. Well,
I was afraid you were going to say there was going to be another hurricane, and I'm like, those guys are still digging out from the last one.
Yeah, man, we can't be having one of those again.
No.
To all my friends out there in the I almost said New Jersey.
New Jersey.
I've been watching too much British comedy. To everyone in New Jersey and on the East Coast who was affected by that, wow, we know that you're still struggling with that. That was tough.
A year later, by the way.
We stand with you a year later.
I want to say before we head out on hardware here that that Phone Arena has posted about 3 hours ago that a Nexus 5 has been torn down, and these are not blurry cam photos. This is a teardown that has been documented with really, really nice photography from fanaticphone.com. Yes, Tony? Did we repost this?
No, not just yet.
Not yet.
So I'm looking at these images right now, which I will go ahead and drop in there for you and listeners once we get our piece reposted on this. You will be able to see it. I'll drop it in the description. I'm looking at a 2300 milliamp hour battery, as we were saying before. You can see a lot of components that people who know
look
a
at
lot
the
about
tiny
hardware
camera.
can talk about. Yeah, and the tiny little camera sensor. So
I'm going to call it the Tony camera from now on.
That's my thing, Tony. See, this is the only thing. This is why I think, Tony, that we are more likely to see a launch in the very near future than I am one like even a week from now, is because all this stuff is popping up at a feverish rate now, and there's actually stock in stores, which we know now. So I just don't see stock sitting in stores for a week waiting for a launch here. I think
they could send out the invites on Friday for a Tuesday event.
They could, but doesn't November 1st sound like a Google day to do? Like, doesn't like they did it? Well, they've done it before. It was
whoa, guys, look at this. What? Kit Kats are little teeny straight things, right? They're straight candies, like 111. Huh?
Get out!
Like,
get off the show. Go away.
Wow. I'm going to go have some candy.
Am I missing something?
Yeah, there's been a whole batch of conspiracy theories, trying to find little Easter eggs in the commercials and stuff.
Oh, yeah, I remember. Yeah. Stories I skipped.
So let's talk about that before Tony's got to depart in what, about 90 seconds, Tony?
2 minutes.
All right, before you head out the door, I want you to tell us, so let's pivot to software here. Tell us what your favorite things that you're looking forward to in Android KitKat 4.4 are.
Well, I will give you a very politician-like answer because Android in its 4.3 iteration, even 4.2.1 and 2 is good. It answers all my needs. Whether it's got Sense, TouchWiz, or anything else on top of it, it is fast, thankfully, and we are no longer seeing laggy phones, except if you're a Samsung tablet. But still, so for me personally, Android 4.4 doesn't have to bring anything. It is already enjoyable. And that's important for me. But what there will be, I predict it will be nothing major. It will be just a point update like we've seen the last 4.2 update. It will bring some new features to the table, some tweaks, maybe in the user interface, just like the transparent notification shade and stuff like that. Just small, light tweaks, and then Google will be bringing a huge overhaul with 5.0.
That's not a bad perspective, and I think with Google's increasing shift toward delivering new features in terms of individual packages rather than total Android point upgrades, it's reasonable to assume that 4.4 is going to be quite similar to what we already have. I agree.
Yeah, I can't disagree with any of that.
Tony, I would love to get into some more stuff, but I would also love to get you off the air in an expeditious manner because you have business to deal with.
Thank you very much for being here, for inviting me, and hope to talk to you guys next time with the Nexus 5 on the market, which I'm not saying I hope to talk to you guys in 2 months. I hope to talk to you guys tomorrow with the Nexus 5 on the market.
That sounds good. And we are going to be doing a Pocketnow Live tomorrow. Is that correct?
There will be one whenever Google decides to bring it.
Oh, not an editorial roundtable, but a regular Pocketnow Live, right?
The Live is here to stay.
All right. Excellent. Well, I will see you on the Live tomorrow then, sir. Absolutely.
Guys, have an awesome show.
Thanks, Tony.
See you, Tony.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Joe, what were you going to say?
Something about how Tony's brilliant. And oh wait, he's not listening anymore, is he? Okay, never mind.
No, and he's not going to listen past the point where he departs either. So
no, I was just looking at these pictures, and by the way, if you're listening to this, head over to pocketnow.com at the article and look at Michael's link for this Nexus 5 teardown. That earphone little grill thing. Wow. That looks stylish and nice.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
Hey, shut up. Okay? Shut up. It's picture 7 out of 10 for people who like style and simplicity, okay? For the Michael Fishers out there.
Yeah. No, so all right, we're supposed to be talking about KitKat, but there's not a lot to talk about until we know more. So I just want to, this is what I'm talking about, Joe. There's this whole philosophy that I understand completely, that the software is what we want to showcase, particularly with the Nexus product. So the hardware needs to get out of the way of the software, and that it just needs to be a window into the software experience. Fine. I understand that, and I respect it, but I don't like it at all. I think the hardware plays such a crucial part of the device experience, not just because you have to physically hold something to view the software, but it should play very nicely with you, with your ecosystem of other hardware that you've bought. It should exist in the real world in a way that's significant and, in my opinion, cool. And yes. I just don't see that in the Nexus 5. It doesn't excite me from what I've seen so far. It just kind of looks very, very commonplace and understated.
Well, get one, take it on a boat, and sit on it, and you'll be fine. You'll be happy. But no, I get what you're saying, and I completely agree. We're not talking about hardware. We're not talking about software. At the end of the day, we're talking about a total user experience.
Right.
And that total user experience is the totality. It's the completeness of whatever this thing is. Until we can get into the whole Pandora of... look at me. I'm using my hands to illustrate what I'm talking about on the podcast. I'll do it closer to the microphone so everyone can see. And until we get virtual reality where the hardware is literally invisible as far as the interaction with the interface goes.
Literally
invisible. It's not even there. It's literally.
Until we get to cloaked phones. Yes.
Essentially. Well, not even phones here, but if we're talking just some kind of device, Google Glass is kind of a step in that direction where you've got, yes, you've got hardware, but you're looking at the interface through the hardware as if the hardware weren't even there. You're interacting with it with touches and with voice and with all this other stuff and with what's going on around you. Until we do that, yes, the hardware is a vital component of this. But at the same time, it needs to be simple. It needs to be elegant. It needs to just work and do what it's supposed to do and enable that software experience without detracting from it. But like you were saying, it's also got, you're holding this thing. That's a huge part of the whole user experience. That tactile experience has to be there. So one of the reasons why I love the Nexus 4 so much, it's got those rounded edges. And I hate that I can't put a screen protector on it without ruining that nice bevel into and out. That rounded screen, even though it's an up round, not a down round. They're concave, convex, whatever those fancy words are. That was my Taylor Martin. But that just that little subtlety, right there, was enough to just make the device feel good to me. And I get what you're saying.
To me, the Nexus 4 was the beginning of the downfall, actually, for me.
I hate the glass back, absolutely.
Well, of course you do, because you shattered yours. But,
two now. Not my wife did one and I did one.
Oh God, you broke two of them. Well
my wife broke one.
Here's the thing. Yeah. Well, hey, you're together in marriage. You're together in blame, right?
Yeah. Well, okay.
No, but
joint liability, right?
Before the Nexus, right? But before the Nexus 4, look what we had. The Nexus 1, which was probably one of the more understated Nexus devices, but because it brought so many groundbreaking specs, it didn't need to be crazy. Like, it was the first gigahertz processor device, if I recall. Or one of the first, at least. And
it had a cool light-up glowing trackball.
Right, exactly.
People love to just thumb that thing all the time.
And that's a nice set-off, right? So that's like, oh, this is very cool. But then you had was the Nexus S after that?
We don't speak of that.
No, but all right. Now, I know you don't like the Nexus. I know a lot of people don't like it. But for me, I loved it. You had this big old blob on the bottom that was like a reverse chin, and you had a curved glass over the display. Listen, I loved it. I thought that thing was cool looking. I thought it was special. It was definitely special, but I thought it was really cool looking and really, really awesome. And then you had kind of the evolution of that design with the Galaxy Nexus, which kind of conventionalized it a little bit, made it a little safer, which I didn't like. But that was actually the beginning. You had this thing that was like, okay, well, the Nexus S was exciting and bold, and this is kind of like, oh, well, it's like not as bold. But I mean, it's cool, so I'll buy one. And
I'll have you know,
the Nexus 4, and the Nexus 4 is what you were talking about. Yes, Joe, I get that you like that it's subtle and awesome, but you have to look so closely at it. I don't know. I just like bolder choices.
That's why you have cases. You can bedazzle it.
No, cases are lame and whack and stupid.
I agree. So yeah, I absolutely hated the Nexus S. I didn't use it. I skipped that generation entirely. Not because of the outside, not because of the tactile interface, but because it was so slow and just underpowered for what it needed to be. It was an embarrassment to the Nexus name. The Galaxy Nexus, on the other hand, yes, it got rid of some of that boldness, got a lot more subtle, a lot more streamlined, and I am running 3 of those in the house today. My 2 teenage kids and my wife are all running Galaxy Nexi, and they're running just fine and absolutely love them. She's running stock, and they are running, I believe, CyanogenMod 10.1.3
Taken
final.
After the old man. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And
That's
it's
awesome.
great. It does what they need to do. It's industrial enough that it survives the rigors of life in a teenager's pocket.
Not on a boat, but yeah.
Well, I said a teenager, not someone who looks like a teenager.
Listen, I'm a teenager at heart. Somebody called me old the other day. It was when I was interviewing Marquez, and like some commenter before I perma-banned him and deleted him and sent an assassin after him.
You can't call me old. I'll ban your butt off.
You guys should get Taylor Martin to talk to Marquez. Michael Fisher's too old. I'm like, what are you talking about? Get out of here.
Yeah.
But
how old are you?
I don't know. I'm 23 or something.
Yeah, and I'm 24.
Good.
See, there you go,
so we're all
guys.
young.
You know exactly.
So let's talk about KitKat before we move on to MISC. We've talked a lot about MISC already, but 4.4.
4.4.
Oh, God, wait, hold on a second. Speaking of
not 5, 4.4.
Not 5, but 4.4. Speaking of Taylor Martin, he is prompt, BT Dubs. I'm adding him to the call. It just doesn't feel right, Joe.
Dude, yeah, we can't badmouth him without bringing him on.
That's right. That's exactly right. Didn't feel right to have his ears burning from everybody. Taylor Martin.
Hello.
Welcome back to the Pocketnow Weekly. Tony just had to leave us, so you're our substitute for 20 minutes.
You are live and on the air, so don't say anything that'll embarrass us.
Don't do any cursing.
Well, I am Sitting here ironing a shirt.
Well, that sounds very lovely.
We're about to walk my dog using my built-in microphone on my MacBook.
Ooh, yeah. You definitely sound like you're reporting from the field.
You didn't sound Blue ish, but it's not as cool as reporting from a bus stop.
Right.
Just saying.
No, it's not as cool as reporting from broken down Hooters. But let's stick with it. Taylor, you can go when you want to. I just wanted to have you on there for a second. What? No. I wanted to ask about Taylor's thoughts on Android 4.4. We've talked about the Nexus 5 hardware.
Ad nauseum.
A lot, yeah. And we've also talked about this kind of philosophical shift in Google from doing point upgrades with massive waves of updates to this kind of prepackaged thing where it's like, okay, we're going to update this one component and push it out separately. So, but given all that, Taylor, what are you most looking forward to from the KitKat/Nexus 5 release?
I mean, do we have any sort of leaks on what it's going to include?
Yeah, and they all are like the most minor things you can imagine from what I can tell, like the transparent notification shade. But
only on the home screen.
Right, and like quote-unquote general UI enhancements.
Yeah, and that's probably all major updates are going to be for Android from now on. My dog's drinking water, by the way.
Thank you for that update. Breaking.
Everyone needs to drink water. If you're not drinking water while you're listening to our podcast, make sure you do that.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not like he drinks quietly.
No, that's true. It's definitely Continue.
So I mean, I figure most of the now he's eating food. I'm sorry. He just decided like
one more dog update, and we're hanging up on you.
I figure most of the updates are going to be UI changes and improvements more so than
polish.
Yeah, polish rather than major features, and yeah, they're going to integrate some new features. Who knows what? Maybe. I don't know, like Joe said in this post that I've yet to publish, it's about to go up.
That looks beautiful, by the way. Pimp right there.
Oh, the collaborative piece on what we want our smartphones to do, yes.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, you were talking about how you wish your phone could anticipate what you're going to do next. And I think to an extent they already do. That was part of Project Butter, correct? Where it kind of ramps up in anticipation. It doesn't anticipate what you're going to do, but it anticipates when you're going to do something, right?
Yeah. So we've already got kind of the framework, the foundation laid for this anticipatory stuff, especially with, and I didn't even think about bringing in Project Butter, but, your ambient processors is where I was thinking, but you're absolutely correct. We have the ability now to be aware and to get ready for stuff. Now all we got to do is figure out what to get ready for. Because the stuff that I'm getting, come on, it's not me. If this is what you're telling advertisers that this is what I like and they're paying you for it? Wow, I'm in the wrong business.
Yeah. Future predictions where the money is at.
Exactly. Yeah, come on. We need to get Miss Cleo. There we go. Android 5 is going to be with Miss Cleo, the world famous site. For those of you who don't know Miss Cleo,
no, I remember Miss Cleo from my youth. Yes, indeed.
Well, I think I'm too young for this one.
You're 23, right, Michael?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, your youth was like yesterday.
That's exactly right. I'm still in the midst of my youth.
Exactly.
If I'm 23, Taylor Martin's like 15, so we've got to rethink our Las Vegas drinking plans.
So I'm 12, guys.
Yeah, we do that.
Good.
The hat says it all.
Anything else to cover in KitKat before we kind of move on? I just want to, Taylor, and you can feel free to. I know you got to put on that shirt you're ironing and go do things. So Joe and I are about to jump into listener mail, but before I let you off the hook, what is your number one most favorite thing that you're looking forward to from the Nexus 5 as a whole?
The Nexus 5 stock Android with a Snapdragon 800 chip.
Oh. Yeah, that was one of the first things we covered. Absolutely.
Yeah, we've seen what the Snapdragon 800 could do for TouchWiz. If you've seen the Note 3, Note 3 review and the Note 10.1 review. The Note 3 that I had was Snapdragon 800, had zero lag. The thing was just flying through everything, all you could throw at it. I had 6 applications running at once, and it didn't skip a beat. touch.
I don't know.
And then I switch over to the Note 10.1 with the Exynos
The
5
Exynos,
Octa.
yeah.
And it's just lag. You can have a pin window, so one of the floating windows on the home screen, and try to scroll through the home screen, and you could hear gears turning.
Yeah.
So
I think your vibration motor needs some service. You might want to warranty repair that.
Without that giant software footprint slowing everything down, and even though it didn't slow anything down on your Note 3, by the way, I take issue with your claim. I've managed to slow down my Snapdragon Note 3. But
no, you didn't.
Yeah, but without all of that TouchWiz like gumming up the works there, I agree. Stock Android on Snapdragon 800 just sounds absurdly responsive to me. I would be very surprised. If we were
predictive almost.
Yeah, like you're going to swipe through the home screen, and before you touch the screen, it's like done.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more than that. Before you go to swipe the home screen, it's woken itself up, read your email, sent the responses, and ordered you pizza for lunch.
You talking?
Boom.
This is crazy talk.
Right there.
This is like my friend, my roommate, and I talking about the Mac Pro, the new Mac Pro.
Oh yeah, the beer can.
Why would anybody ever need that? And I said, well, I could use it for video editing because my export times would be dramatically improved. Click done.
Yeah.
Click done.
And you can use it to throw garbage in. It's beautiful.
True.
Yes.
My question is: do you guys think this is? I lied before, Taylor. This is the last thing I'm going to ask you. Do you guys think that 4.4 is going to bring any measurable improvement to the Google Now voice interface experience? I know they just redid it with the Moto X, but there are people saying already that they're hearing a different voice with Google Now as of this morning. That it's smoother, that it's more human.
I don't care about that. I really don't, because it's not like it's going to fool anybody. You know, I don't get the point of it needing to sound more human.
But I don't think sound more human is the important part. I think being able to address it contextually, like being able to address it in a more casual fashion, rather.
Yo, Google.
No, like not like the trigger word can be the same, but like
Sup my Nexus, Holmes.
It's just like it's just in the sense of like take me home, and knowing that it wants to that it wants you to navigate. That it wants you to navigate. What a horrible sentence.
If
you know
Apple
what I'm talking about.
had created it and you said "take me home," it would start singing to you or something.
Yeah, like John Denver.
Take me home. No, but Siri can do that though. I mean, you tell Siri to take me home, and Siri like understands that phrase. Like Google Now is still lacking in terms of addressability, I think.
Yeah. So common language. Both asked questions and spoken responses. That's the big thing right there, is the spoken response. That's got a long way to go on both sides. And, Google Plus, Google Now, Google whatever they're calling it. And sure, absolutely, yes, they need more. They're more conversational. You can ask follow-up questions to Google Now.
Yes.
And that's cool. Unless you wait too long, and then it forgets everything, and you look like an idiot when you're trying to show off to your friends. So they got to work on that, because come on, Google, don't make me look like an idiot. That's not cool.
Yeah.
My Moto
we're
X
going to
has
see
failed
cool
me
stuff.
lately.
What?
The past week, my Moto X has failed me. Every time I've said, "Okay, Google Now," while it's sleeping, and asked it a question, it says, "Could not recognize, retry."
Wow, that's weird. Mine has not done that at all.
Have you tried turning it off and back on again?
Yes, I have. Also, I want
Their
a sticker that
IT
says-
crowd reference. Woohoo.
Yes, I know it is. It's hilarious. Watch it if you haven't.
That's one of the things we got going through this episode is IT crowd. It's wonderful.
That's right. All right, Taylor, get back to making that shirt wrinkle-free, and we will probably be seeing you for a big old news blast in a little bit if this lady, ninth time is the charm, so maybe this news blast will be accurate.
Well, I'll be face deep in a video, but hey, we'll see what's going on.
I think AP is finally reporting on this now, according to our breaking news source Nitro Z. So,
Nice.
God, we should start charging him for that.
He's our inside
this
source.
Twitter pimping. I love this. This is great. I just wish we broadcast live. We're going to be broadcasting live soon. We found a client. So anyway,
should we just drop hints that we're looking for new VIPs to feature on the show?
No, we shouldn't. We already have a list of
that would get
for the VIP.
That would get his hopes up way too
Every
much.
time we do a VIP, we get 40 million suggestions, and I'm like, oh, some of these are really awesome.
Stephen Hawking.
Somebody wanted to get Flossie Carter on the show, and then I had forgotten about Flossie Carter for a minute. I'm like, oh yes, we got to do that. And I'm actually not at all being sarcastic. Like I really
Robert Picardo.
Oh well, yeah. Well, I'm naturally we got to get the doctor. Taylor Martin, go away. We'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.
I want to thank you for coming on the show for real. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Give us some Southern drawl before you go.
Don't do it. I'm tired of it.
I don't know what to say. You're not tired of it.
Oh, look at this. I can hang
I
up.
think that was beautiful.
This is magic. I can hang up on Taylor Martin. This is great. What is
do it. What are you waiting for?
I just don't feel right. Oh, now I feel right. Okay, he's gone.
It doesn't make that satisfying clunk sound.
It doesn't. I can't snap shut a flip phone. Then I don't want to do it. So we're I think we're scraping the bottom of the barrel on KitKat
Okay, no.
stuff. We don't.
Before we go listener mail.
Well, I wasn't going to go to listener mail. I was going to talk about, hey, go read my article on why I like the Flex better than this Nexus 5
Okay, good, because that's where I was going. You were hinting towards reader mail. I'm like, no, I want to know why you like the LG G Flex more than the Nexus 5. There's got to be at least 3 reasons why, and I got it.
I was just going to point you to like a text piece that I have 3 very well-defined reasons why.
With the picture of George Bush scratching his head.
Very important. Got to have that.
Beautiful.
Now, the Nexus 5 is exactly what I was talking about before, and just I can't move the headline from misc, so I just will say that I think LG has done some cool stuff in the past. LG is a cool company that has managed to surprise me several times.
Good.
Yeah, I mean it's cool. They're not doing it with the Nexus 5. I mean it's
shut up.
It's a very conventional, progression of their design concept for the 4, but look at this Flex. Yes, it's going to be a pain to carry in your pocket, maybe. Yes, it's probably going to sit on a tabletop wonky. Yes, you have to deal with the button.
Before you continue, I've just got to clarify. Mm-hmm. Is your buttocks curved?
Hey, man. Yeah, man. Oh, yeah. Big curve.
Is the phone curved?
Phone's curved.
Do you not see a perfect marriage of buttocks and phone?
Right. But if you superimpose the curve of the Flex over a buttock, that would have to be a buttock the size of Arizona. No, there's no buttock size comparison on that. I just like saying buttock. Anyway,
Jessica Alba, what?
Well, see, that's the thing. For regular butts, you have to have a curve of 30 degrees for a phone. So that wouldn't work. But put it in your thigh pocket, whatever. The Galaxy Round would be better for that. But the Flex adheres to the curve of or equates to the curve of your face, your cheek.
Yes, and that's what it's designed to do.
Exactly. And
so help me out here.
This is what it's doing. What the Nexus S did that I liked. It's being different and doing so in a smart way. In my opinion, the Galaxy Round is different just for the sake of being different because it's a prototype that they built to prove they could do it. That's basically what the Galaxy Round is. It's curved the wrong way. Who's going to want to use that? No one.
It's bizarre, is what it is. Yeah. If it were a tablet, I could see being curved that way.
Yeah. But the Flex is exactly like we talked about last week or the week before, whatever it was. It does the same thing the original Pre does, where you slid open the original Pre and it assumed this banana shape. There was also a Motorola phone that did that, a sliver or a riser modification. Remember the riser?
Do I?
Yeah, the slider version of the sliver, and except this one, it had this accordion style thing. So when you slid the screen up, the keypad would accordion down, and it would lock into a position in a banana phone shape, and it was awesome. I loved that thing. Banana phone. So anyway, how this relates to the Nexus 5 is once again, as with the G2, LG. Has shown that they're capable of doing interesting stuff and bold stuff, but they don't want to make that bold choice because intelligently. I understand it's a smart choice because they're doing it for a wide swath of consumers, and they don't want to take a risk that big that people are going to look at a Flex phone and be like, "That's stupid." Because just look at the comments in that article. Some people like it, some people don't. The people that don't are really amped on the fact that they don't like this thing. It's
okay. Two questions for you.
Hit me. What?
How many people do you think are going to take this thing, and whether well, they're probably not going to do it sober. In a drunken state, hand it to their friend or themselves, try and flex this thing and snap it in half. How many people do you think are going to do that? And is that going to be covered by warranty because it doesn't really flex? First question.
No, people are not going to do no. It's not going to be covered by warranty, and anybody who does that deserves what they get.
I agree. Sit on your phone on a boat like normal people, okay?
Ooh.
That's what we do. Okay.
It hurts.
Did the glass impact a buttockle area?
No.
Anyway, back to this. Yeah. So we've got 3 phones from LG, right? Or 2 and 1 that we think we might get sometime eventually, maybe, if we ever do, in 16 minutes, maybe.
What are you talking about? G2, Nexus 5, Flex?
We've got the G2, Nexus 5, and G Flex.
Uh-huh.
Are they essentially the same phone?
No.
If you take hardware, if you take processor, if you take storage, if you take RAM, if you take screen resolution and rough screen size, are they the same phone?
No.
How are they different?
The G Flex is a 6-inch 720p panel, so it's inferior in resolution.
Well, it's 720p. It's still HD. That aside, how about
the rest of the specs? Yeah, I'll take your well-made point. Yeah, basically the same.
So
button placement is different, but yeah.
Yeah, well, you've got the Samsung button on it. What? Oh, I'm looking at the Samsung phone now. Look at that. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I'm looking at your article.
The round? Oh, lame.
Yeah, I confused the round with it.
So what are you driving at there? What are you?
Oh, I'm not driving at anything. I'm just saying it's interesting that we're taking the same core makeup, if you will, the same processor, the same configuration, and all we're doing we're wrapping it in different pretty outsides. It's essentially the same phone, just with a different exterior, which goes back to your point from earlier. Wouldn't it be nice if they were doing something bold with it? It's the same phone.
Boom. It is, yeah.
Just a different package.
Done more conventionally. Done to get out of the way of the software, which I think is fundamentally missing the point. But we've been there before.
We've been there. We've done that. We've said that.
Having said it, I think it's time we owe our listeners a service. Two of them, actually. The first one is to get off the air so that we can cover the Nexus 5 if it actually launches. Second one being to read their listener mail.
Yes, please, let's.
Bong bong. The first one here is...
Whoa, you don't add the bong bong in live? That's after editing?
Yeah, it's the magic.
I did not know that.
Here, I'll throw in a little bosun's whistle for you there. How you like
that was beautiful.
Is that
better? Guys, when you're on the show, you miss out some of the magic.
That's true. You don't get the intro or outro tunes.
We had 2 bong bongs.
All the curses are live.
One that I listened to, didn't we? Or is that the one before?
Yeah, no, that was 2 bong bongs.
I thought that was in the show.
Probably because Taylor interrupted me. But see, that's the problem. When you get too far away from the initial announcement of listener mail, then I have to do it again because it's.
Why on earth would someone interrupt you, dude? That's
crazy.
Rude. That's just
now
rude.
It's time for listener mail. The first one is from John Martin, who says, "Hey, Pocketnow team, I was wondering what your guys' thoughts are on the possibility of an unlocked Nexus 5 that's both GSM and CDMA and can work on all major carriers in the States with no contract." Sounds like you're talking about a pipe dream, John. We saw the new Nexus 7 launch this year that is capable of being used on Verizon Wireless as well as the usual GSM suspects. Usually I would doubt this idea because Verizon's a control freak, amen, and think they know best. But with the Nexus 7, I was also hoping of the same result with the Nexus 5. Just wanted to know your guys' opinions. Love the site. Really enjoy listening to your podcast every week. Keep up the great work. John, thank you. Awesome question.
Thank you, John. Yes.
We talked a little bit about this earlier in the show. If you skipped right to listener mail, go back and listen to that. But I will admit this. I don't have a new Nexus 7. I've actually not spent any time with one. So I did not know that the new Nexus 7 also supported Verizon and other carriers. But isn't but isn't that just what? Are you surprised about
I'm surprised that you didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, but Joe, tell me about that. It's not just LTE. It's LTE and HSPA and CDMA data?
No.
All right, so what is it?
To the best of my knowledge, it's LTE. It's just LTE. If I'm wrong, then I'm probably disappointed that I still can't use it with T-Mobile to be able to test it because of reasons that I think T-Mobile is stupid for. But no, it's LTE. It's an LTE radio, and it's basically that. If you've got a carrier that supports one of the bands that this device supports, you're probably good to go. You just have to get a SIM, pop it in, and go.
So
but
I'm looking at the store right now. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Joe. I'm just looking.
No,
at
you're not.
I'm not. I'm looking at the new Nexus 7 in the Google Play Store right now, and I've got options for Wi-Fi only, LTE parentheses GSM networks, LTE with AT&T, LTE with T-Mobile. Those are my only choices. I don't see a Verizon option here.
The LTE should work just fine with Verizon. You just pop in the SIM, go. Now, when it originally came out, yeah, that is weird. GSM networks. When it originally came out, it was just LTE. There was no 3 varieties. It came out and it came prepackaged with a T-Mobile SIM that you could very quickly and easily fork over more of your money for to activate and make work, but you couldn't use the SIM out of your cell phone with unlimited data because that would just be too wrong, apparently. What this is just different packaging. The LTE parentheses GSM networks means it's a generic one. The LTE with AT&T means it comes prepackaged with an AT&T SIM, and then T-Mobile is the same thing. Please, if I'm wrong here, someone who has Verizon, let me know. You should be able to just pop your Verizon LTE SIM into your really any one of those, and it'll work fine.
With their iPad SIMs on Verizon, they've popped in the Nexus 7 and it'll work. But there was a kerfuffle back in September about Verizon not certifying the Nexus 7 for its network, and then kind of delaying that, shuffling its feet, and there was a lot of news on that. So anyway, it does work though. So I think that's the bottom of it. And when you think about that possibility, and you think about incorporating that into a Nexus 5 with CDMA radio, with the GSM radio, with LTE radios, it just, that's the big problem. You need that voice support, because all we're talking about here is Verizon LTE, right, with the Nexus 7? We're not talking about CDMA data. And right. CDMA is the problem.
Right, exactly. And like we mentioned a little bit earlier in the show, that's a different version of the 800.
A different version of the Snapdragon 800?
Yes, to include CDMA.
To include CDMA, yes.
It's got a different chipset.
So there it is, John. I mean, it would be lovely to have a GSM and CDMA Nexus 5. We know, or we don't know, but we suspect strongly that there will be a Sprint Nexus 5, which means that there's Nexus 5 that'll support CDMA.
Whether or not that's Verizon CDMA has yet to be seen, but... Well,
Verizon and Sprint, though, share CDMA bands. I mean, it's 1900 and 800, and that's it. It's only LTE where Verizon gets weird and such.
But go back to the Galaxy Nexus. Yeah, we had separate devices for both of them. We may or may not have the same thing here.
Yeah, so John, it would be great. I don't see that kind of simplicity happening until all the networks are running the same technology, and when that happens, I think there's going to be a whole lot of other stuff to worry about. So,
yeah, to put it all in a nutshell, we got 2 things happening, and one may happen before the other, and the other may not happen at all. We've got GSM, we've got CDMA as voice networks, and they are separate and will always be separate. We have chips that are kind of hybridizing, and some of them support both CDMA and GSM. Not many do, just because that's kind of an unholy marriage. It's just weird. I feel weird just saying it. Maybe it's because it's Halloween. But you've got that. Obviously, if you can do one thing on one chip and make one chip that handles 2 things, you're going to save money as a chip manufacturer. So yeah, the desire to do that is there. Absolutely. On the other side, we've got LTE. And we've got voice over LTE, and we've got that path that is coming. It's not here yet. You may have a few pockets where you may be able to do it with the right hardware, blah, blah, blah. Not here yet, but we're going down that direction as well. I think the writing's on the wall. LTE is the future. Voice over LTE is most likely going to be the future, since everyone out there, Sprint and Verizon included, support LTE. To me, it seems like the natural convergence is going to be everybody has LTE and everybody does voice over LTE, and that way you have one unified chipset, and there is holy matrimony.
It's gonna be a beautiful future. We gotta move on.
I wanted to blabber more.
No.
Okay, go ahead.
We have Android Police now saying that the that after speaking with no less than 5 different sources with knowledge
No
of the
less
matter,
than 5.
No less than 5. This is Artem Rusakovsky is ready to confirm that the LG-made Nexus 5 should be unveiled later on today. That's
7
today, October 31st, along with Android 4.4 KitKat. Additional details of which were leaked last night by former WSJ reporter Amir Efrati. That's cool.
Amir, good guy.
We're thinking of seeing a major wallet announcement is likely. This is all from AndroidPolice.com, by the way.
Major wallet?
He's hearing the embargo is officially lifting at 11 a.m. Pacific, which would be...
That's lunchtime Mountain Time.
It is, and it's lunchtime Eastern time too. If you eat a little later, and but
if
the
you're
announcement,
eating lunch, it's lunchtime wherever you are.
So this is weird. If the embargo is lifting purportedly at 11 a.m. Pacific, but the announcement and possible Play Store availability could come earlier, that doesn't make any sense to me.
No, I see that because they want to have the exclusive on it.
Google
here we
wants
go.
to have their own exclusive.
Yeah, I mean, come on, you haven't seen any leaks. They're holding this really tight to the belt. They want to be the ones to break this, not websites and stuff, right?
Well, no,
right?
I guess we'll see. I'm just adding our breaking news sources to the description so people can click on these when they listen to the podcast 4 days after this thing is dropped and it's all irrelevant. Let's move on to another piece of listener mail. Joe, read the one from Stephen Toth King, if you would.
Stephen Toth King writes, "Hey Pocketnow team, I'd like to thank the whole team for the great job that you're doing." Why, thank you, Stephen. We try. It's what we do. There are some experts in the team, so that's primarily me. So maybe you can.
Shut up.
So maybe you can answer my question regarding processors. Is the Snapdragon 800 really that much better than the S4? Yes. I'm asking because the Nexus 5 is rumored to have the 800. I sure hope it will. But I can't get the device cheaply from the Play Store in my country. I hear you there, dude, and I hate that. So don't complain to me. I'm on your side. So I'm not sure whether it's worth the upgrade or not. Thanks for your answer, Stephen Toth King, who has a BA3 in psychology from Hungary.
He's attending the University of...
Okay. Yeah. Is that what that means? I thought it meant...
Yeah, I think so. But anyway, Stephen, whatever the case, Stephen, thank you for writing in. Joe.
Yes, thank you.
Tell us in brief why the 800 is better than the S4.
In brief, we're going to go back in time. Yes. The S4 Pro and the S4 Prime were the bee's knees this time last year. We didn't really see the S4 Prime anywhere. I didn't suspect that we would. Everybody had the S4 Pro or one of the smaller brothers to that, and it was great. Time has passed, and technology has improved, and those improvements have been bundled into the latest generation of processors, the Snapdragon X100 series, and that's a term I'm coining. The 400, 600, 800, they are the new versions of the S4 Pro, and they are all, okay, maybe not all, the majority of them are significantly better than the S4 Pro to the tune of just raw processing power. We're talking 75% faster with some people are reporting 40% better battery life. So you're getting a significant jump in speed. You're getting all kinds of new features and benefits that the S4 Pro could do, but it wasn't optimized for them and didn't do them nearly as fast. Yeah. So is it worth it? Yes, absolutely yes. There is no doubt yes. Is it worth the premium in your country? I don't know what the premium is in your country, so that's something you're going to have to decide on your own. In the States, absolutely yes. In the States plus $200, I think so. In the States plus $400, probably not.
Then it starts to fall apart. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a subjective, thing. You've got to decide for yourself. But is it worth the price? Well, it's definitely worth the upgrade. It's just up to you whether it's worth the cost in your country or not.
There you go. That's it, Stephen. That is a awesome question, and I'm glad we had Joe on the air to answer it for you, as he answered it better than anyone else could.
Well, and that article that's on the site today
should be on. Speaking of things being on the site today, we really have to wrap this up because we have to push this thing out the door before any more Nexus 5 news drops.
Before the Nexus 6 is announced, right?
Exactly. We're running out of time every second. The last question from Michael Luft. Love the podcast. Thank you, sir. If someone was looking to get into Android, would you recommend Nexus 5, or Samsung Galaxy S4? Michael Loft, sent from my iPhone 5.
Another defector.
Michael, thank you for your question. This is a very good question. I think it's a great one to wrap up the Nexus 5 special edition podcast on. I think, Joe, I feel like I know your answer, so I'm going to go ahead and say mine first. Absolutely the Nexus 5. Yes, the Samsung Galaxy S4 offers a lot more in terms of raw feature count, but as we've said a few times on the show before and in our reviews, the Samsung TouchWiz feature suite is not complete in that I think a lot of those features are quite half-baked, and some of them are just more frustration than they're worth. Plus, the stock Android experience you're going to find on the Nexus 5 is much more akin to, I think, what you're used to on your iPhone 5 in terms of reliability, responsiveness, and a unified aesthetic that I think you will appreciate much, much more than you would TouchWiz. So that's my answer. The Nexus 5, hands down, I didn't even have to think about it, although I did. So that's my answer. Joe?
Wow, it was like you pre-planned that or something.
Isn't that weird?
response
It's like
was
I
great.
read the thing ahead of time.
So this is a question that I've been receiving a lot. And to everyone who I have already replied to, whether that's by email or some other method, I'm sorry, I'm going to give different advice here. So please consider this me updating my response to all of you. The question is essentially, and not just comparing the Nexus 5 and the Galaxy S4, which phone should I get? The HTC One, the One Max, the Galaxy S4, the latest from Sony, et cetera, and they throw in the Nexus 5 as well. And my answer has always been, you're comparing the best of everything. Anything that you get is going to be great. It just is. Look at the individual, whatever you like. Do you want a bigger screen? Do you want more TouchWiz stuff? Do you want some of these other features? They're all essentially on the same playing field. Yes, some are faster than others. Yes, some are better than others. Yes, some have front-facing speakers. Those are all just little things. But as far as the guts and the overall experience goes, you're getting the highest end that you can get. And I have lumped in the Nexus 5 into that answer as well. Today I'm changing that. No, the Nexus 5 is not akin to the Galaxy S4. It's not akin to the HTC One anymore. It's not. It is the next step up. The only thing I think we can really compare the Nexus 5 to is the Moto X at this point, and possibly the LG G2, and if you want flexy things, what we already talked about, the LG G Flex. Mm-hmm. So those, if we're comparing those, the question gets a lot more difficult to answer. This question, Nexus 5 or SGS4, get a Nexus 5 hands down. If it's going to be released ever, get that one. If you can't wait the hour or week or month, however long it takes to release it, then go with what you think. The G4 or the SGS4, man, too many acronyms. It's not a bad device. It's a great device. It's a wonderful device. And if you can't tell, I'm just trying to make Michael just say wrap it up as many times as possible.
Further into the past.
Because Pocketnow readers and Pocketnow listeners deserve a full, fleshed out,
so much to do. You have so
answer.
much to do today, Joe Levi. You can't afford this. I'm going to get Robert Loggia on the podcast just to say, we're out of time.
We're out of time. You can't handle the truth.
Get him out of there.
So,
all right.
Anyway, so that is my answer right now. Yeah,
it's a wonderfully dense answer. It's lovely. The Nexus 5. Get the Nexus 5. It's probably out already if you're listening to this.
Do it.
Let's go report the news. This has been the Pocketnow Weekly. Joe Levi, you're the best. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's been a fabulous time. Thanks, Michael.
You find us on Twitter, listeners. You do it, and you do it now. It's
go there now,
and we'll talk.
Follow
and
us.
Great. Joe is at Joe Levi. Michael Fisher is at Captain Two Phones, and our earlier departed Anton Dinoj is at ANTONDNAGY.
Hey, wait, wasn't there some other guy too?
Taylor Martin, Casper Tech, CASPERTEK, joined us for about 20 minutes back there.
And if you want to follow Casper Tech's dog,
God,
I don't have his Twitter.
I've got my finger on the eject button for you, Joe Levi. You can also follow Pocketnow officially on Pocketnow's Twitter, Pocketnow on Instagram, Facebook, Google+. Share opinions at forums.pocketnow.com. If you enjoyed the podcast, leave us a review on iTunes or Xbox Music. And if you have a topic, question, or suggestion for the show, or you just want to say hi, email us, podcast@pocketnow.com. Couldn't be easier. Thanks for listening, everyone. Sincerely, we will see you next week.
Have a fabulous day with your new Nexus 5.
Boom.